The show starts with a family of three. The father, Jason, who is a physicist, his son, Charlie, and his wife, Daniela. The family is having breakfast together, and it's obvious that they love each other very much. After they finish, Jason takes Charlie to drop him off at school. On their way, Jason gets a call from Ryan, who we learn is Jason's close friend and also a scientist. Ryan informs Jason that he has won the Pavia Prize and tells him that Jason deserves it more than he does. But that's life. By the way, the Pavia Prize is a significant scientific award with a prize of $1 million. Jason congratulates Ryan and assures him that it doesn't matter to him. Ryan then mentions that he'll be celebrating the award at a bar near his house later that night and invites Jason to join. Jason tells him he'll think about it and hangs up. After hanging up, Jason is visibly upset about not winning the award, but he doesn't let it bother him too much. He heads to the modest university where he works as a physics professor. Jason enters to give a lecture to a group of students, but it's clear that he's lost all passion, and the students aren't paying attention either. Jason's lecture covers Schrödinger's cat theory, and briefly, the theory suggests that if you put a cat inside a sealed box with a bottle of poison and a radioactive atom, there are two possibilities. Either the atom decays and breaks the bottle, killing the cat, or nothing happens, and the cat remains alive. In other words, at the moment when the cat is inside the box and it's sealed, its chances of dying are 50%, and the chances of it living are also 50%. This means that at that moment, the cat is both alive and dead at the same time. This theory is important, and you need to keep it in mind until the end of the series, as it plays a crucial role. Later, Jason sits with his family, and in the meantime, Ryan keeps messaging Jason, asking him to come to the party, but Jason doesn't respond. Daniela steps in and tells Jason that he should go and celebrate with his friend, since Ryan is his lifelong friend. And if the roles were reversed, he wouldn't hesitate to celebrate with Jason. Convinced by Daniela, Jason heads to the bar where Ryan is hosting his party. As soon as Ryan sees Jason, he gets overly excited, introduces him to three of his friends, Claire, Edward, and Eva, who are also scientists, and it's clear that the three are very impressed by Ryan's intelligence and knowledge. This bothers Jason a bit, but anyway, Ryan's friends eventually leave, and Ryan sits down to chat with Jason. Ryan reveals that he won the Pavia Prize for his work in neuroscience, specifically for discovering that the prefrontal cortex is the source of human consciousness. We also learn that Jason had some critical insights into Ryan's work that contributed to his winning the prize. Ryan then tells Jason that he and their old friend Andrew are starting a company in the field of neurotechnology, and it will be based in San Francisco. Ryan invites Jason to come and work with them and offers a hefty salary. Jason thinks the offer is good, but doesn't make a decision right away for two reasons. First, he doesn't want to work for Ryan, and second, he's settled in his current city and doesn't want to move to San Francisco. Ryan tells Jason not to feel pressured, but to discuss it with Daniela and decide what's best for them. Jason agrees, says goodbye, and leaves. While heading home, Jason encounters a strange beggar whose face is not visible. The beggar asks Jason for $1. Jason reaches for his wallet, but as he does, the beggar suddenly pulls a weapon and threatens him. At that moment, we realize that this man is not a beggar at all. The stranger takes Jason's phone, wallet, and everything else he has, and orders Jason to do exactly what he says or he'll kill him. The stranger forces Jason into a car and makes him drive. After a while, the stranger asks for the passcode to Jason's phone, but before Jason can tell him, the stranger already guesses it correctly and opens the phone easily. The stranger then asks Jason what Ryan wanted from him. Jason tells him that Ryan offered him a job at his new company, but that he hasn't accepted yet. The stranger continues driving for a while, then orders Jason to stop at a specific location. Jason is forced out of the car, where the stranger takes Jason's wedding ring and orders him to strip. Jason complies, and at one point, he tries to attack the stranger, but the stranger easily overpowers him and injects him with a syringe. The stranger then forces Jason to open a specific trunk which contains some clothes and orders Jason to put them on, which he does. Afterward, the stranger speaks to Jason, asking if he ever wanted a quiet life with his wife and son, or if he wished his life would change. Jason, now drowsy from the injection, admits that he wishes his life would change. The stranger tells Jason that his life will indeed change. Both their lives will. Jason tries to ask the stranger who he is and attempts to pull off the mask covering his face, but the stranger tells Jason that even if he knew who he was, he wouldn't believe it. The stranger then pulls out a strange-looking box and starts working on it. At that moment, Jason loses consciousness. When he wakes up, he finds himself in what looks like an operating room, with doctors around him examining him. Once the doctors finish their examination, they disinfect him. After a while, Jason regains full consciousness and finds himself in a strange room. Jason tries to open the door, but it's locked from the outside and he can't get out. After a short time, a woman enters the room and she hugs Jason lovingly. Jason is confused and asks her, "Who are you?" The woman, surprised, tells Jason that her name is Amanda and asks, "Don't you remember me?" Jason tells her that he doesn't remember her and doesn't know where he is. Amanda explains that they are in a company that Jason himself founded. Jason is even more confused and doesn't understand what's going on. Amanda then tells him that they had to keep him in quarantine until they were sure he didn't have any viruses or diseases. Jason is baffled, wondering where he could have contracted anything from, but Amanda doesn't respond to that and tells him that everything will come back to him in time. Amanda then takes Jason to another part of the company where they meet a man named Layton, who Jason recognizes as an old friend from university, even though he hasn't seen him in years. Jason asks Layton what he's doing here, and Layton tells him that Jason has been missing for 14 months and 10 days, but the important thing is that he's back and successful. Jason, of course, has no idea what Layton is talking about, but he doesn't get a chance to ask because suddenly the company's scientists all gather around Jason to congratulate him on his success. All of this leaves Jason even more confused. Jason finally snaps, telling them that he doesn't know anyone here except Layton, whom he hasn't seen in years, and demands to go home because he's starting to get scared. But no one pays attention to his words, and they take him to rest, assuring him that he will remember everything soon and be fine. Jason, however, is not reassured and quickly escapes from Layton and the others. He gets into an elevator and heads for the company's exit. The first thing Jason does is catch a taxi and head home. When Jason enters his house, he's shocked to find Amanda there. He asks her, "What are you doing here?" She tells him that she lives here with him. Jason can't believe her and starts turning on the lights, only to find that the house is completely different from what he remembers. He becomes even more confused and starts searching the house for his wife Daniela and son Charlie, but he can't find them. Jason goes into the room that used to belong to his son, but he finds that it's now a personal office filled with awards that Jason supposedly won, including the Pavia Prize itself. Seeing all this, Jason is even more bewildered and lost, but he continues his search for his family. He calls Daniela, but a strange woman answers, telling him that he has the wrong number. Amanda, overhearing the conversation, asks Jason, "Who are Daniela and Charlie?" He tells her that they are his wife and son, but Amanda is shocked because in this world, Jason isn't even married. At this point, Layton and his team show up at the house, intending to take Jason back to the company. Jason is terrified and runs away from them. Meanwhile, we see that the masked person who attacked Jason earlier is actually another version of Jason. This version of Jason is now in Jason's original world and goes to Jason's house, where he finds Daniela and Charlie living their lives as usual. He is thrilled to have a family in this parallel world. Here we realize that the person who kidnapped Jason is a version of him from a parallel world. In that world, he didn't have a family, but instead built a company and became a renowned scientist, as we've seen. We also learned that the strange box that transported Jason to the parallel world was an invention by the other Jason. He used it to bring the original Jason into his world, which doesn't include Daniela or Charlie. We understand that parallel world Jason came to the original world and sent the original Jason to the parallel world because he wanted to live a stable family life. In simpler terms, we now have two Jasons. The brilliant scientist Jason swapped places with the family man Jason because he wanted to live with a family. Now we return to the original Jason, who is still in the parallel world, unaware that he is in a parallel universe. He continues running from Layton and his team, eventually finding refuge in a bar. This bar is a place that the original Jason used to frequent in his world, and the bartender knows him very well. However, when Jason enters the bar here, the bartender has no idea who he is, because in this world, Jason never comes to this bar. Jason tries to remind the bartender of who he is, telling him that he was here last night with his friend Ryan, but the bartender doesn't remember him and thinks Jason is trying to cause trouble. Jason, feeling uneasy, leaves the bar, sensing that something is wrong with his mind. He decides to go to the hospital and explains his situation to the doctor, telling him that everything in his life suddenly changed overnight. The doctor becomes concerned about Jason's mental state and orders a series of brain scans. Eventually, a nurse gives Jason a sedative to help him sleep. When Jason wakes up the next day, a doctor comes to see him and informs him that there is nothing wrong with his brain. However, the doctor mentions something strange. Jason's body contains traces of strange psychological drugs that affect the brain. Jason suspects that these drugs came from the person who injected him earlier, but doesn't say anything to the doctor. The doctor also reveals that she did some research on Jason and found out that he is a famous professor with multiple patents and companies, and that he recently won the Pavia Prize. Additionally, the doctor tells Jason that she looked for his wife and son, but couldn't find anyone named Daniela or Charlie. Jason is baffled and takes the doctor's tablet to search for his wife, using her maiden name rather than his surname. He discovers that, in this world, Daniela is a famous artist who has an art exhibition today. Jason decides to go see her. The doctor insists that Jason should go to a psychiatric hospital, but he refuses and escapes. Meanwhile, Leighton and his ruthless assistant Dawn meet with Amanda to figure out where Jason might have gone. We learn that they are desperate to find Jason because the company's experiments, particularly those involving parallel worlds, are top secret, and they fear that in his current state, Jason might expose them. Dawn speculates that Jason, being a scientist, likely went to the hospital to make sure there was nothing wrong with him. They decide to go after him. Jason, disguised as a doctor, manages to evade Dawn and escapes the hospital just in time. He heads to Daniela's art exhibition, which he found out about earlier. Upon arriving at the exhibition, he meets one of the organizers, who is thrilled to see him and gives him tickets to the exhibition. Jason enters the exhibition and immediately notices that all the art is about him. He spots Daniela and can't believe his eyes. He rushes over to greet her and asks about Charlie, but Daniela doesn't know who he's talking about, so Jason brushes it off. Daniela's agent then approaches Jason and informs him that the entire exhibition was inspired by him. Meanwhile, Ryan, who in this world hasn't won any awards, arrives at the exhibition. He strikes up a conversation with Jason, telling him how he helped him with several important compounds for his research, and that he'd like to work with him in the company. We see that in this world, everything is completely different. Ryan is the one who is considered a failure, not Jason. Jason doesn't respond to Ryan's request because he doesn't even understand what Ryan is talking about. After the exhibition, Jason, Ryan, and Daniela go to Daniela's house and spend time together. As in this world, they are close friends. Everyone asks Jason where he's been during his absence. As in this world, Jason has been missing for over a year while conducting a secret experiment on parallel worlds. Jason tells them that he wasn't missing, but rather that his entire life changed overnight. He explains that in the world he knows, he is married to Daniela, and they have a son named Charlie. He also tells them that Ryan, in his world, is a famous scientist who won the Pavia Prize, but then one day, someone kidnapped him, and since then, everything has been different. Ryan thinks Jason is mocking them and leaves the room. Daniela, however, stays with Jason, who insists that he is telling the truth and that he doesn't understand how everything in his life could change so suddenly. Jason asks Daniela about her art exhibition and how it was inspired by him, and Daniela explains that the last time they met, Jason told her that every choice a person makes determines everything in their life. Each choice creates different outcomes and can even create parallel worlds. He also told her that he was going to disappear and that she would never see him again. Since then, Daniela created her art exhibition based on this concept of doors and choices, as we've seen, and in this way, she was inspired by Jason. Of course, the Jason Daniela is talking about is the parallel world Jason, not the original Jason who is with her now. Daniela decides to help Jason figure out what is happening to him. Jason calls Amanda and tricks her into thinking that he is going to a psychiatric hospital and needs her to come with him. Amanda leaves the house to meet Jason, giving him and Daniela the opportunity to sneak into the house. Jason shows Daniela that they were married in this house, but Daniela insists that it never happened. She recalls that she once told Jason she was pregnant with his child, and he asked her to terminate the pregnancy because he wanted to focus on his work and research, as that was what was most important to him. Jason tells her that when she came to him and told him she was pregnant, he decided to marry her because he didn't want to spend his life in a lab, but with her. Daniela becomes upset, thinking that Jason is lying and twisting the facts, but Jason is telling the truth. The one who said those things to Daniela was the parallel world Jason, not the original Jason who is with her now. Anyway, Jason takes some documents and research from the house and returns with Daniela to her place. There, Jason begins to read the research conducted by the parallel world Jason and learns that this Jason managed to invent a box similar to Schrodinger's cat box, which we discussed earlier. This box allows a person to travel from one parallel world to another, with all the worlds being nearly identical, except for small differences. Daniela doesn't understand any of this, so Jason explains that every decision a person makes creates a parallel world. For example, when Daniela came to Jason and told him she was pregnant, at that moment, there was only one Jason, with no duplicates. However, at that moment, one Jason made the decision to marry Daniela, creating a world where he lived with her and had Charlie. At the same time, another world was created where Jason decided to focus on his work and forgot about marriage, leading to the creation of the box in that world. Jason continues, explaining that it seems the Jason from that world regretted not starting a family, so he kidnapped Jason from his family and brought him here, taking his place. At this point, Jason is happy that he finally understands everything and decides that from now on, he will find a way to return to his world. Daniela, on the other hand, is happy to learn that in one world, Jason chose her over his work, and she begins to fall for this original Jason because he chose her. However, their happiness is short-lived. Shortly afterward, Dawn arrives and without any warning, kills Daniela. Keep in mind that this Daniela is from the parallel world, not the original one. Dawn ties Jason up while he is in shock and leaves him there. We'll find out what she did next later. Now, we go back to the original world, where the parallel world Jason is living happily with Daniela and Charlie. He wakes up, gets ready, and heads to work at the school. We see that this Jason from the parallel world is completely different. He loves teaching and engages with his students enthusiastically, keeping them focused and interested. After work, Jason returns home, where Daniela informs him that she has an art exhibition coming up in cities outside of Chicago, where they currently live. Jason tells her that he will go with her and make it a vacation, which makes Daniela happy. She's also surprised by Jason's behavior because he doesn't usually act this way. Daniela then tells Jason that Ryan called and asked what he planned to do about work. Jason is annoyed by this and decides he'll call Ryan later. Jason goes to brush his teeth, but by accident, he uses Daniela's toothbrush. Daniela comes in and points out that he's using her toothbrush, and she's clearly puzzled by Jason's behavior, sensing that something is different about him. The next day, Jason calls Ryan and tells him not to call his wife again, as he's overstepping his boundaries. Jason also informs Ryan that he won't be working with him. Ryan is surprised by Jason's attitude but agrees. Jason then goes to a secret storage unit, where he keeps things like the mask he used when he kidnapped the original Jason, his gun, and the small box he used with Jason. He also visits a large box and stands in front of it for a while before leaving. This large box is the one Jason built, and we'll learn more about it later. Now, we return to the parallel world, where Amanda receives a call from Leighton. He informs her that Jason has been kidnapped and that Daniela has been killed. Amanda is shocked and heads to the company immediately. Meanwhile, Jason is being held captive in a room at the company. Leighton comes in to talk to him, but Jason refuses to speak, so Leighton leaves. A police officer named Mason arrives at the company to investigate Jason's disappearance and sudden reappearance. Leighton denies knowing anything about Jason, and Mason also questions him about an employee named Blair, who disappeared shortly before Jason did. Leighton becomes nervous and insists that he doesn't know anything about Blair either. Mason is suspicious, but leaves without saying anything. A little later, Amanda arrives at the company and talks with Leighton. We learn that Blair was also working at the company, and, like Jason, used the box, but never returned. Only Jason came back. At this point, Leighton and Amanda are watching Jason through the surveillance cameras. Jason is talking to them, saying that he wants to cooperate and will obey their orders. Jason is willing to talk because he's still not fully convinced that he was transported to a parallel world. He suspects that he might have a mental issue and is hallucinating. Leighton and Amanda go to Jason and untie him. Jason asks what exactly the project was that they were working on and why they are killing anyone who finds out about it, as they did with Daniela. Leighton and Amanda are surprised that Jason doesn't remember anything about the project, but they take him to a secret part of the company. In this secret location, there is a massive box, similar to the one the parallel world Jason stood in front of earlier. Layton and Amanda explain to Jason that this box is a simulation of Schrödinger's cat experiment. The idea is that when a person enters the box, they are in the same situation as the cat in Schrödinger's box. Once inside, countless parallel worlds open up, each representing different possibilities for Jason. He can travel between these worlds using the box. The problem is that no one knows how the box actually works. Only Jason does. Since Jason returned, they've been trying to get him to explain how to use the box because Layton invested billions into building it, and he wants to know how it works. Jason asks to see footage from the day he disappeared. Layton shows him surveillance videos from that day. In the footage, Jason is upset because Blair had used the box and disappeared, and no one knows where she went. As a result, Jason decided to run the experiment on himself. He entered the box, and from that moment, he vanished, not reappearing until 2 years later. Jason watches footage of himself entering the box and then leaving it. At this point, we realize that the box in the original world, the one the parallel world Jason had earlier, was used by the parallel world Jason to send the original Jason here. After seeing all this, Jason returns to his room and talks with Amanda. She gives him all the research and experiments that the parallel world Jason conducted, hoping that he can figure out how the box works. Jason discovers that Amanda is a psychologist and that her role in the company is to prepare people to use the box. Jason confides in her, telling her that he's starting to believe that he's not the Jason from this world, but rather from a parallel one. Amanda is shocked and realizes why this Jason doesn't remember anything about her, the company, or his invention, because he's not the Jason they know. Amanda, overwhelmed by this revelation, leaves Jason. Not long after, Layton arrives and takes Jason for questioning. Layton has also realized by now that this Jason isn't the Jason they know, but one from another world. Layton questions Jason about the whereabouts of their world's Jason, but Jason tells him that he has no idea. Jason is upset, thinking that Amanda told Layton about him, but Layton reveals that Ryan was the one who informed them that this Jason isn't the real one. Layton has also captured Ryan, and this enrages Jason, who starts attacking Layton, but Layton's men stop him. Dawn arrives and begins torturing Jason, asking him about the whereabouts of their world's Jason, but Jason can't answer because he genuinely doesn't know. Layton asks if Jason has figured out how the box works, but Jason says he hasn't. Layton locks Jason in a room with Ryan. Ryan tells Jason that Layton came to see him and asked if he met with Jason and Daniela. Ryan admits that he told Layton everything, including the fact that Jason came from a parallel world. Layton learned everything from Ryan. Jason, not caring about this, asks Ryan about the compound he was developing at the company. Ryan explains that the parallel world Jason had previously asked him to create a compound that affects the brain's cortex and the brain in general, but he doesn't know what it was used for. Jason realizes that the compound must be used in conjunction with the box. After a while, Layton returns and takes Ryan away, but we don't know what he plans to do with him. Soon after, Amanda comes to Jason and tells him that she's going to help him escape. Jason asks about Ryan, and Amanda reveals that Layton likely killed him, just as he did with Daniela. Amanda and Jason make their escape, but Layton and Dawn chase after them. Amanda and Jason have no choice but to enter the box. Amanda grabs a bag hanging on the wall, and they both enter the box. Dawn tries to open the door to the box before they can close it, but Jason slams the door on her hand, cutting off her fingers. Amanda tells Jason that they are safe for now because the box will remain sealed for 3 minutes, during which no one can open it from the inside or the outside. During these 3 minutes, they need to inject themselves with the correct doses to be able to travel between worlds using the box. This is the compound that Ryan developed. They both take the doses, and immediately they lose consciousness. They have no idea where the box will take them. When they wake up, they find themselves inside the box, but the box is enormous, seemingly with no end, and they have no idea how to get out of it. We'll leave them for now and return to the original world, where the parallel world Jason is still living. This Jason is currently sitting with Daniela, who tells him that they are going to have a dinner party with some friends, including Blair. This shocks Jason because, as we know, in his world, Blair entered the box, and no one knows where she went. But here, she is Daniela's friend, alive and well. Jason is excited to see this version of Blair, even though he knows it's not the Blair he knew. That night, the party takes place, and all of Jason and Daniella's friends, including Ryan and Blair, arrive. Jason is thrilled to sit and talk with Blair, overjoyed to see her alive in front of him, even though he knows this isn't the Blair he knew. Meanwhile, the original Jason and Amanda are still inside the box, wandering through the massive maze. This maze is filled with countless doors, and each door leads to a different parallel world. Jason and Amanda don't know how to control the box or how to reach the world they want, so they randomly choose a door and step through it. They find themselves in a strange, completely destroyed world, as if it has ended. They are both shocked by the devastation around them, but the real horror comes when they see that all the buildings in this world are collapsing on their own. Terrified, they quickly run back to the box and return to the maze. After calming down, they take another dose of Ryan's compound. We learn that this compound somehow allows them to see the maze and all the doors that lead to different worlds. Jason and Amanda continue opening doors, hoping to find a world they recognize, but each time they end up in a destroyed, collapsing world. This terrifies them. Amanda repeatedly asks Jason what they should do and how they can get back to their own world. Jason admits that he doesn't know because the parallel worlds are endless, with every decision they make creating a new one. For example, Jason explains that in the parallel world where they escaped from Layton and Dawn, there is another world where they failed to escape, and Layton and Dawn caught them. After this explanation, they open another door and find themselves in a world where Layton and Dawn captured them before they could escape, and Dawn shot and killed Amanda. Jason is horrified by this and quickly returns them to the box and the maze. After this ordeal, Amanda is nearly driven insane by the endless maze and is desperate to leave. She opens the door to another world, and Jason follows her. They enter a world that is completely frozen, with ice storms ravaging the earth. Amanda is overwhelmed by the cold and is on the verge of death. Jason quickly grabs her and tries to escape, but the storm is so fierce that he loses track of the box and can't find a way back. Jason realizes that if they stay in the storm, they'll die, so he takes Amanda to an abandoned house in this world, where they take shelter from the storm. The next day, the weather is slightly better, so Jason goes outside to search for the box, but can't find it because it's buried under snow and ice. Jason is devastated and returns to Amanda in the house. They sit together and talk, and Amanda shares memories of her childhood, telling Jason that the cold and the storms in this world remind her of the town she grew up in, where the winters were harsh and the storms were frequent. She recalls that whenever a storm hit while they were outside, they would hide in a car until it passed. At this moment, Jason has an idea and asks Amanda, "Before you opened the door that led us to this world, were you thinking about this memory?" Amanda says yes, and here, Jason finally understands how the box works. Jason tells Amanda that the box is controlled by thoughts and emotions. In other words, if you're thinking about something and have strong emotions attached to it, the box will take you to a world where that thing exists. Just like when Amanda was thinking about the storms from her childhood, the box brought them to this world. Amanda is amazed by Jason's discovery, and they are both overjoyed because now they know how to return to their world. They leave the house and dig through the snow until they find the box, and they enter it. Before taking another dose of Ryan's compound to travel to a new world, they sit down to talk for a while. Jason asks Amanda about the parallel world Jason and why he might have kidnapped him, taken his place, and chosen to live in the original world with Daniella and Charlie. Amanda explains that even though the parallel world Jason was incredibly successful and wealthy, he always felt incomplete because he didn't have a family, and he often regretted not marrying Daniella. At this moment, Jason and Amanda realize that the parallel world Jason, after inventing the box, searched for a world where a version of him had a stable family life. When he found Jason's world, he kidnapped him, brought him to the parallel world, and took his place, wanting to live with Daniella and Charlie, something he had missed out on in his own life. He didn't want to kill the original Jason, but instead sent him to the parallel world, so that the original Jason could live the life of success and wealth that he had never experienced. Jason is shocked by all of this and vows that he will return to his world and his family, no matter what it takes. Meanwhile, in the parallel world, Layton is furious that Jason and Amanda escaped. He decides to enter the box himself in the hope of catching them. Layton steps into the box and is transported to the maze, But of course, he can't find Jason or Amanda because they didn't enter the box at the same time as him. Still, Layton begins searching for them, opening doors to different worlds, hoping to find them. After a long time of searching, we see that Layton is still lost in the maze, and he looks completely worn out. It's clear that he's been through multiple destroyed worlds, which is why he's in such bad shape. The problem is that Layton doesn't know how to control the box, so he can't return to his world and remains trapped in the endless maze. We leave Layton and return to the original world, where the parallel world Jason is still living. He takes his son Charlie to school, and after that, he heads to the university where he works. As usual, the students aren't interested in what he has to say. Jason becomes frustrated and breaks a bottle in the middle of the lecture hall, then storms out. The university's president confronts Jason, asking what he's doing, and Jason tells him that he's resigning before walking away. It's clear that Jason is dissatisfied with the poverty and failure he's experiencing in this world, so he decides to change everything. Jason goes to meet Layton from the original world, and we see that this Layton is very different from the one we know. He doesn't have a company. His father runs the family business, and Layton spends his time drinking and doing nothing. Jason tells him that he wants to show him a project he's working on, and if Layton likes it, he can invest in it. Layton agrees and goes with Jason. Jason takes Layton to the version of the box in this world. Before entering, Jason gives Layton a dose of Ryan's compound. They enter the box, and Jason explains that this box allows them to travel between parallel worlds. He tells Layton that the box works through emotions and thoughts, so if you think and feel strongly about something, the box will take you to a world where that thing exists. This proves that the original Jason's theory about how the box works was correct. Jason and Layton try out the box, and after a while, they step out. Layton is amazed by what he saw, especially because the box took him to a world where his grandfather is still alive, and Layton loved his grandfather very much. He's overjoyed by the experience. At this point, Jason reveals to Layton that he isn't from this world, but came here to live with Daniela and Charlie because he missed out on that life in his own world. Jason also tells Layton that he too has missed out on a lot in his life and should be living a much better life than the one he has here, because in this world, he's a failure. Layton agrees and tells Jason that he's right and that he'll give him as much money and as many investments as he needs to live the life he always wanted. Jason is thrilled and thanks Layton. With this, Jason has finally achieved everything he wanted in this world. He's now wealthy and living with Daniela and Charlie. Speaking of Daniela and Charlie, they are holding an annual memorial for Max, who is Daniela and Jason's other son and Charlie's brother, but he passed away some time ago. They're both puzzled as to why Jason hasn't shown up yet. After a while, Jason arrives and apologizes for being late, handing Daniela some flowers he bought for her. He also gives Charlie the keys to a car he bought for him, and Charlie is amazed and thanks Jason. Daniela, however, is suspicious and asks Jason where he got the money to buy these things. Jason tells her that he quit his job at the university and started working with Layton, who is investing a lot of money into his project. Jason assures Daniela that from now on, money won't be an issue for them and that she should quit her job and return to painting, as that's what she loves. By the way, Daniela from the original world gave up painting long ago to focus on her work. Despite all this, Daniela doesn't seem happy. She's puzzled by Jason's behavior and begins to suspect that something is off about him. Meanwhile, the original Jason and Amanda, having figured out how the box works, decide to use it. Jason concentrates and focuses his emotions on returning to his world. He opens the door, hoping to step into his world, but instead, Jason and Amanda find themselves in a world that is flooded. The water rushes into the box, and they are about to drown. At the last moment, Jason manages to close the door, and they return to the maze. Amanda tells Jason that the reason they ended up in that world is likely because he was under a lot of pressure, and they need to relax and clear their minds before trying again. Jason agrees, and they sit and talk for a while to calm themselves down. Exhausted, they both fall asleep. The next day, they wake up and find that the maze has disappeared, and they are now only in the box. They realize that the effects of the compound have worn off, because as we know, the compound is what allows them to see the maze and the doors to other worlds. Since they're stuck in the box and can't see the maze without taking more of the compound, They decide to leave the box and get some food before returning to take the compound and resume their journey through the maze. When they step out of the box, they find themselves in the company's headquarters, but it's completely empty. They realize that they are in the company, but in a parallel world. They wander around the company until they enter a room where they find a decaying corpse on a bed. They are terrified and realize that this world is also destroyed, so they decide to return to the box. Before they can do that, a woman suddenly appears and holds them at gunpoint. This woman is Blair, but she's the Blair from Amanda's parallel world. We learn that this Blair also used the box and ended up in this world. Blair takes Jason and Amanda to a room where she's been living and shows them surveillance footage. In the video, we see Blair, the one from this world, exiting the box. Apparently, when she used the box, she traveled to a strange world and returned with alien-like creatures. These creatures began attacking and consuming everyone in their path, eventually destroying this world. Blair shows Jason and Amanda one of these creatures, which is dead, and its appearance is terrifying and grotesque. Amanda asks Blair why she hasn't used the box again, given that she has doses of the compound. Blair explains that she's traumatized by what she saw when she used the box and won't use it again until she feels ready. Jason and Amanda finish their conversation with Blair and return to the box. They take another dose of the compound, and this time, Jason focuses on returning to his world, where his wife and son are. After concentrating, Jason opens the door, hoping to step into his world, but instead, he and Amanda find themselves in an empty, desolate world. Amanda feels that something is off about this world, but Jason is convinced that it's his world and decides to go to his house to check on his wife and son. Jason and Amanda find a car parked on the road, take it, and drive to Jason's house. Jason knocks on the door and Daniela answers, but she looks very sick. Daniela lets Jason in, shocked to see him alive because in this world, Jason is dead. Charlie is also dead, lying in his room. Jason is stunned by all of this and by Daniela's illness, but before he can say anything, he hears Amanda shouting outside. Jason rushes out to see what's happening and finds soldiers in protective suits restraining Amanda. At this point, we learn that this world was hit by a terrible plague that killed many people, including this world's Jason and Charlie. The soldiers test Jason and Amanda and find that they are healthy. A doctor enters to examine Daniela, and after checking on her, the doctor tells Jason that his wife is infected with the plague and will die. She gives Jason some morphine and asks him to inject Daniela with it so that she can die quickly and end her suffering. Jason is devastated but goes to Daniela, talks with her for a while, and then gives her the injection to end her life. Jason, heartbroken, leaves the house and returns to the box with Amanda. Jason reflects on what happened and realizes that he did return to a world where he was married and had a family, but it's a destroyed world, so he needs to focus and concentrate more to reach his real world. Jason concentrates again, opens a new door, and finds himself in what seems to be a normal world. Overjoyed, Jason believes that this is finally his world. He rushes to his house, grabs a knife, and prepares to confront the parallel world Jason. Because remember, the parallel world Jason is living in the original world. Jason takes the knife and heads upstairs to find his wife, but when he sees her, she is terrified and doesn't understand how he got there. This version of Daniela grabs her phone and calls the police, telling them that her ex-husband, who escaped from prison, has come to attack her. Even worse, Charlie comes in and tries to attack Jason. It's at this point that Jason realizes that in this world, he has caused a disaster and is divorced from Daniela. Realizing that this isn't his world, Jason leaves and escapes. Not long after, the police arrive, and Jason, afraid of being arrested and imprisoned in a world that isn't his, decides not to take any public transportation that might lead him back to the box. Amanda suggests that they go to her house in this world, take her mother's car, and use it to return to the box. Jason agrees, and they head to Amanda's house. Inside, they find Amanda's mother, who is terrified when she sees Amanda, as she doesn't understand how her daughter is alive. Jason looks at a picture of Amanda in the house and realizes that the Amanda in this world died, which is why her mother is so scared. Jason explains everything to Amanda, and she is shocked. Amanda speaks to her mother as if she is her daughter's spirit, assuring her that she's okay. After that, Jason and Amanda leave the house, taking her mother's car, and they return to the box. Meanwhile, in the original world, the parallel world Jason is with Layton, and they enter the box. Jason begins training Layton on how to use the box and how it works. After their session, Layton asks Jason what he plans to do after their training is complete, and he receives the doses of the compound. Jason tells him that he plans to destroy the box's portal in this world completely, ensuring that the original Jason can't return to take his family back. We continue with the parallel world Jason in the original world. The next day, we see Jason sitting with Daniela, who has returned to painting. Jason is thrilled to see her painting again. She's working on a particular piece of art that I want you to remember for later. After that, Jason goes out with his son, Charlie, and drops him off at a place where he's meeting some friends. Jason then heads to meet Layton and gives him the doses of the compound. Layton thanks him and prepares to begin his journey through the box, searching for the world he dreams of. Meanwhile, Jason picks up Charlie from his friends and gives him an ice cream that he bought for him. Charlie eats the ice cream, but suddenly he starts having a severe reaction because he's allergic to nuts, and the ice cream is full of nuts. Jason rushes Charlie to the hospital, distressed that he almost lost his son. Jason begins to feel like he doesn't belong here because, clearly, he doesn't know anything about Daniela and Charlie. After a while, Daniela arrives at the hospital and is shocked that Jason forgot about their son's allergy. She notices marks on Jason's arm, similar to injection marks, and suspects that he's an addict. She doesn't know that these marks are from the compound used for traveling between worlds. The next day, Daniela meets with her friend Blair. Yes, this is the Blair from the original world, not the Blair from the parallel world who entered the box. Daniela tells Blair that she suspects Jason is an addict. Blair advises her to follow him and see where he goes, and Daniela agrees. Later that night, Jason takes Daniela out, telling her that he has a surprise for her. Daniela goes with him, and he takes her to an art gallery. Daniela is shocked to find that the painting she was working on earlier is on display at the gallery. She is furious and demands that Jason take her home immediately. When they get home, Daniela confronts Jason, accusing him of taking her painting and displaying it without her permission. She feels that Jason is trying to control her to make himself happy without considering her feelings, and she tells him that he's changed. Jason, upset by all of this, leaves the house. Daniela follows him and sees him go to his secret storage unit, which she knew nothing about. She waits for Jason to leave and then searches the unit, where she finds a dose of the compound. Confused, she takes it to Ryan from the original world and asks him to analyze it and tell her what it is. Ryan analyzes the compound and immediately goes to Jason. He takes Jason to a bar to confront him. Ryan is furious, asking Jason how he created the compound. Ryan suspects that Jason stole the idea from him because Ryan was working on a similar compound but hadn't yet perfected the formula. Jason, realizing that he could get into serious trouble, decides to act. He takes Ryan to the box and explains everything about it. Jason even allows Ryan to enter the box with him, and they travel to a parallel world. Jason leaves Ryan in this world, ensuring that he won't cause any problems in the original world. Ryan is shocked and tells Jason, "You're not the Jason I know." Jason confirms that he is indeed a different version and leaves Ryan in the parallel world. Afterward, Jason hires some workers to cover the box with concrete, ensuring that no one, not Ryan or the original Jason, will ever be able to return to this world. Speaking of the original Jason, we see that he and Amanda are still searching for the original world so that Jason can return to his family. Unfortunately, they keep arriving in the wrong worlds. In one of these wrong worlds, they decide to take a break and enjoy a relaxing day together, stepping away from their journey for a while. They spend the day having fun, and the next day, they resume their search, traveling to a new world. Unfortunately, it's still not the original world. However, in this world, Daniela is alive and married to this world's version of Jason. Jason is happy to meet this version of Daniela, and it brings him some comfort. That night, Jason watches Daniela from a distance as she spends time with her husband, the parallel world version of him. Jason feels sad and jealous, but he returns to Amanda, who reminds him that they're running out of doses of the compound and need to find his world soon. Jason assures her that he will do whatever it takes to return to his world. The next day, Amanda tells Jason that they should go to a peaceful world for a while to rest and recover from everything they've been through before resuming their journey. Jason is reluctant, as it would waste one of the doses of the compound, but he agrees. Amanda opens the door to a specific world that she's chosen, and this world is peaceful, beautiful, and serene. Amanda takes Jason to a cafe, and they sit together, enjoying the calm and happiness around them. After a while, Amanda tells Jason that she has to run an errand and asks him to meet her at a certain restaurant in 2 hours. Jason agrees, and 2 hours later, he goes to the restaurant where Amanda is waiting for him. Amanda reveals that she researched herself in this world and discovered that the Amanda from this world disappeared 2 years ago. Taking advantage of this, Amanda created new identity documents for herself as Amanda and decided to stay in this world permanently. She explains that she can't return to her original world after all the problems that occurred, and she's tired of searching for a new life. She knows this might be her only chance to choose the life she wants. Jason is shocked by her decision, but he respects it. He gives her 2 doses of the compound in case something goes wrong in this world and she needs to leave. Amanda refuses the doses, but Jason agrees with her decision. As they say goodbye, Jason secretly slips 2 doses of the compound into Amanda's bag, just in case she ever wants to leave the world. After parting with Amanda, Jason returns to the box. He only has 3 doses of the compound left, meaning he has 3 chances to find his original world. He uses 1 dose and travels to a new world, but when he arrives at his house, he finds it burned down and destroyed. It turns out that, in this world, a terrible tragedy happened to his family. Jason, feeling defeated, returns to the box and uses his second-to-last dose to travel to another world. Unfortunately, this world isn't the one he's looking for either. However, in this world, Daniela is alive and married to a version of Jason. Desperate to see her, Jason contacts Daniela, pretending to be her husband from this world. They have a conversation, and Jason feels an overwhelming sense of joy being able to talk to her again. Overcome with emotions, Jason goes to a shop that sells masks and decides that he will kill the parallel world version of himself in this world, so he can live in his place with Daniela. That night, Jason goes to his house, where he finds Daniela sleeping beside the version of him from this world. Jason is about to kill the other Jason, but changes his mind at the last moment and decides to leave. As Jason is leaving, he runs into a boy who looks exactly like his son, Charlie. However, the boy introduces himself as Max, Charlie's twin brother, the twin that died in the original world. Jason is deeply moved by this and hugs Max tightly before leaving. He returns to the box, now fully aware that he only has 1 dose of the compound left, meaning he has just 1 more chance to return to his world. Before I continue with Jason's next move, we shift back to the original world. In the original world, the parallel world Jason is with Daniela and Charlie. The detective Mason from this world arrives at their house and informs them that Ryan has disappeared. She questions Jason and Daniela, suspecting that Jason may be involved in Ryan's disappearance, but without evidence, she can't take any action. Later, Daniela talks to Jason and reveals that she had followed him to his secret storage unit, where she found the strange drug and gave it to Ryan to analyze. After that, Ryan disappeared. Jason explains that the drug was for use in his experiments and that Ryan himself helped create it, but he can't disclose any more details because he signed a non-disclosure agreement. Daniela believes Jason's story, and they leave it at that. Afterward, Jason leaves the house for a while, but when he returns, Mason is waiting for him. This time, she hints that she knows Jason met with Ryan before he disappeared and subtly warns him that she'll be watching him closely. Jason, feeling defeated, returns to the box and uses his second-to-last dose to travel to another world. He goes to the concrete-covered box and begins breaking it open until he can access the door. Jason uses the box to travel to a parallel world and meets the version of Ryan from that world. In this world, Ryan is a failure who never completed his education. Jason takes advantage of this, getting Ryan drunk and kidnapping him while he's unconscious. Jason brings this version of Ryan back to the original world, leaving him in Ryan's house so that everyone will think this is the real Ryan. With this, Jason hopes to avoid suspicion. Meanwhile, the original Jason, now down to his final dose, uses it to travel to one last world. Finally, Jason arrives in his original world and is overjoyed. He rushes to his house and sees Daniela and Charlie, but to his dismay, the parallel world Jason is also there, living his life. Jason realizes he'll need to confront the other Jason to reclaim his family. Jason goes to a store to buy a weapon, but when he tries to purchase a gun, the shopkeeper refuses, as Jason doesn't have the required permit. Jason buys a knife and a can of pepper spray instead. As Jason is leaving the store, something bizarre happens. Another Jason, who looks exactly like him, walks into the store and tries to buy a weapon as well. The shopkeeper is confused and tells this new Jason that she just sold him a weapon moments ago. It is at this moment that Jason realizes that this new person is another one of his duplicates, another version of himself. This version of Jason must have been created during his time traveling through the box, a result of the countless decisions he made. Jason is stunned by this revelation and tries to find the duplicate, but he can't. Not long after this strange encounter, we see the duplicate of the original Jason heading toward the parallel world Jason with the intention of killing him. A fierce battle ensues between the two Jasons, but the parallel world Jason ultimately overpowers the duplicate and kills him. He hides the body in a car, planning to dispose of it later. Meanwhile, the original Jason is staying in a hotel. As he enters his room, he sees another one of his duplicates leaving the room. Jason chases after this duplicate, but can't catch him. Exhausted, Jason goes to a bar to take a break. To his surprise, another one of his duplicates is sitting in the bar. This duplicate explains to the original Jason that during his time in the box, he must have created countless versions of himself due to all the decisions he made. Now, all of these duplicates are coming to this world, and they all believe they are the real Jason. This is creating chaos because, after the parallel world Jason is dealt with, they will all want to live with Daniela and Charlie, but there can only be one. The duplicate tells Jason that when he finishes dealing with the parallel world Jason, he won't leave Daniela and Charlie behind. He says goodbye to the original Jason and walks away. Meanwhile, Daniela goes to visit Ryan at his house. Of course, this Ryan is not the real one, but the failure version that Jason brought from the parallel world. This Ryan is confused and tells Daniela that he's a mechanic. Daniela is puzzled by his behavior, but assumes he must be suffering from some sort of memory loss. The next day, Daniela wakes up and asks the parallel world Jason for the car keys because she needs to run an errand. Jason becomes anxious, knowing that Daniela's car contains the body of the duplicate he killed. He asks her to take his car instead, offering to drop off Charlie at school with her car. Daniela is suspicious, but agrees. As Jason drives Charlie to school, Charlie asks if they can stop by the university so he can take a look around, as he's interested in applying there. Jason agrees and takes him to the university. However, while there, Jason spots one of the original Jason's duplicates watching him, preparing to attack. Jason panics and sends Charlie back to the car, telling him to wait in a specific spot. Jason then confronts the duplicate, and they engage in a brutal fight. Once again, Jason manages to kill the duplicate. Afterward, Jason returns to the car, but a police officer is questioning Charlie for parking in the wrong spot. Jason is terrified that the officer will search the car and discover the body, so he quickly apologizes and manages to get them out of the situation. At the same time, the original Jason deliberately gets himself arrested by causing a disturbance at a restaurant. He lights up a cigarette, even though smoking is prohibited, prompting the manager to call the police. Ironically, the officer who arrives to arrest him is none other than Dawn, the version of her from the original world. Jason is surprised to see Dawn working as a police officer, but he doesn't say anything and allows her to take him into custody. Jason orchestrates this entire situation because he has a plan, which we'll learn more about soon. While Jason is at the police station, Daniela goes to his secret storage unit. There she finds multiple phones, realizing that the parallel world Jason had been using them to monitor and record her and Charlie before kidnapping the original Jason. She also finds some of Ryan's clothing, which makes her even more suspicious. Just then, Daniela receives a call from the police station, informing her that her husband has been arrested and that she needs to come and bail him out. Daniela agrees and goes to the station. However, the Jason she encounters there isn't the parallel world Jason. It's the original Jason, who deliberately got himself arrested to make sure Daniela would come to see him. The original Jason is overjoyed to finally reunite with Daniela. He begins telling her everything that happened from the moment the parallel world Jason kidnapped him to how he made it back to this world. Jason explains that the man living with her now is a duplicate from a parallel world and that he is the real Jason. Jason tells Daniela that the only way she can confirm his identity is to ask the other Jason something only the real Jason would know. Daniela agrees to this plan. When she returns home, Daniela asks the parallel world Jason the secret question. When he doesn't know the answer, Daniela realizes that the man with her isn't her real husband. Jason meets with Daniela and Charlie at a secret location to plan their escape from the city. Jason warns Daniela that there are now many duplicates of him in the city, not just the parallel world Jason. To avoid confusion, they come up with a code word that Jason will say when they meet again, ensuring that she knows it's him. When Daniela returns home, she finds the parallel world Jason packing up everything, preparing for them to leave the city. He's doing this to escape all the other Jasons, ensuring that none of them can find him. Daniela pretends to go along with his plan, but tricks him into helping her with something in the basement. Once they are down there, she knocks him out, locks him in the basement, and escapes with Charlie. Outside, Daniela and Charlie run into the original Jason, who arrives in a car to pick them up. They get into the car, and as they drive away, Jason begins explaining everything that happened to him. At this point, Daniela realizes that this Jason is also not the real one, but another duplicate. She asks him to stop the car, but he refuses. Just then, another car crashes into them. Inside the car is yet another duplicate of Jason. Daniela seizes the opportunity to escape with Charlie, leaving the two duplicates behind. They eventually meet the real Jason at the prearranged location. When Jason says the code word, Daniela knows for sure that it's really him. Jason embraces Charlie, overwhelmed with joy at finally being reunited with his family. After reuniting with his family, Jason takes Daniela and Charlie and heads off to find a safe place for them to hide. However, they don't know where to go. Charlie suggests they go to the house of one of his friends, and Jason agrees. They arrive at the house and take refuge there. While at the house, Jason checks his email and discovers a chat room filled with his duplicates. All of them are discussing what to do and who deserves to live with Daniela and Charlie. Jason is horrified, realizing that all these versions of himself are coming for his family. Meanwhile, the parallel world Jason regains consciousness in the basement. Just as he's about to get up, one of the original Jason's duplicates breaks in and begins attacking him. The duplicate ties up the parallel world Jason and berates him, blaming him for creating chaos in everyone's lives when he kidnapped the original Jason. He also holds Jason responsible for causing trouble for Amanda, whom he loved. At this moment, the parallel world Jason begins to realize that he made a terrible mistake by kidnapping the original Jason and trying to steal his life. The duplicate doesn't care about the parallel world Jason's remorse. He's only concerned with finding the original Jason, Daniela, and Charlie. The duplicate contacts Blair from the original world, asking her to help him. Blair agrees to come, as her car is currently with the original Jason, Daniela, and Charlie. She can track them down using her car. When Blair arrives, she searches the house and finds the parallel world Jason tied up. Before she can do anything, the duplicate appears, threatening her with a gun. Blair sprays pepper spray in his face, disarms him, and decides to free the parallel world Jason because she feels he is more trustworthy than the duplicate. Meanwhile, the original Jason is still with his family at Charlie's friend's house. That night, Jason hears a noise outside and goes to investigate. He finds one of his duplicates, badly injured and dying. The duplicate tells Jason that the other versions of him have found out where he is, and they're all coming to kill him. The injured duplicate was attacked by one of them. Jason rushes back inside to get his family, but before they can leave, another duplicate shows up and tries to hold them at gunpoint. Jason fights him off, and they struggle until another duplicate arrives and shoots the attacker, killing him. The duplicate who killed the attacker reveals that he is the parallel world Jason, the one who started this whole mess. He apologizes profusely, explaining that he never intended for things to get so out of hand. As a gesture of goodwill, he gives Jason and his family a car and tells them to take it and escape, hoping that this will somehow make amends for the chaos he caused. Jason accepts the car and they drive off. As they're driving, they find a bag full of doses of the compound in the car. Jason realizes that the parallel world Jason left these for them so they could use the box to travel to a new world and start over. He left them an escape route, knowing that this world had become too dangerous for them. Jason decides to take his family to the box. When they arrive, they are shocked to see hundreds of Jason duplicates gathered around the box. One of the duplicates steps forward and explains that they aren't here to harm Jason, Daniela, or Charlie. They're here to say goodbye. They've all agreed to let Daniela and Charlie stay with the original Jason because they chose him. Even though the duplicates are devastated by the thought of losing their family, they respect Daniela's decision. One by one, the duplicates bid farewell to Daniela and Charlie, wishing them well. Jason, Daniela, and Charlie step into the box and prepare to travel to a new world where they can start fresh. As the series ends, we see glimpses of other characters in their respective parallel worlds. Amanda is living peacefully in the world she chose, and Ryan has found himself in the same world as Amanda. The series concludes on a hopeful note, with Jason, Daniela, and Charlie reunited and ready to begin a new life in a new world. And that's it. This is the end of the story. I hope you enjoyed the ride.